Marchand beats Pelosi. Off the wall to Harris. Harris has got Pelosi. Harris to Pelosi. Shot. He scores! Chris Pelosi!
And Poitras trying to drive in on that right wing side. Poitras in. Scores! Matt Poitras in overtime.
Bellis took it right off his stick. Sends one through. They score! First career goal for the Bruins draft pick, Don Bellis.
To the blue line. Cowan has it, looking for the return feed. Cowan lets it go back to the point. Shot! Score!
Those were without all of their World Junior guys for that against Simon Fraser. BC played him Sunday. Good pass ahead. There's Yelvik. He scores! Didn't need an exhibition.
Will come up with it. Ross Schwab flips it out to center. Now McKinney gets chased with Harrison. Harrison to the backhand. Score! A deft touch.
Watch out, Nelson steals, walks in, scores! 6-2. Jackson Nelson has the hat-trick.
In Crosby line. Dula wins that back. Now he's going to waltz up.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Dom.Hockey podcast here on 6342 Productions. I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined, as I always am, by the one and only Dominic Tiano himself. Dom, are you looking forward to talking about some Bees prospects tonight?
Sure, why not? Always. How are you, Christopher?
I'm doing all right. Little extra tired these days, but we're plowing through. We've gotten back into the full swing of hockey. The NCAA is back. The AHL is back. We've got juniors is back. The NHL is back. We've had some interesting games, but some of that we'll save for tomorrow. Tonight is all about the prospects. Where do you want?
Well, where to start? Why don't we start with the baby bees, because there's a number of people out there calling for the Bruins to bring up Fabian Lysell. And
Oh my God, please don't.
that I think that would be a good place to start. The most recent argument I saw is that we need a second line right winger. Geeky isn't that. Brazeau isn't that. I mean, we can talk about Frederick being there. We can even talk about Matthew Poitras being there. But my counter to that argument is that at this point, those guys are all better than Fabian Lysell.
I was going to say, people think our opening game was pretty bad against the Panthers. Providence didn't really do much better. And while they're also 1-1, they haven't looked good doing it.
No, I think
in my eyes.
I think Brett Harrison's looked good. Mikey DiPietro looked good. Brandon Bussey had some moments, but he faced 39 shots in game one.
Yep.
Osterley looked good, but he's a vet. He's not a prospect. Patrick Brown looked good. Vinny Lettieri, again, not a prospect. He's a veteran on the team.
That's just
I thought
the
Jackson
veteran.
Edward had a good first pro game. Fabian Lysell, to put it bluntly, sucked. There were things he was doing that Coach Ryan Mouchnel called him out for last season. So what's to think he can handle it at the NHL level? What our options that are in Boston right now are better than Fabian Lysell.
Yeah, Chaz points out I watched both games and know 100% why Lysell is not on the Bruins. Like, again, he had flashes during the season, during training camp. no one is knocking his talent here. He's not playing to his talent level right now. And quite frankly, I would say that overall Providence is not playing to their talent level either. I mean, the guys that you mentioned, all the veteran ones down there, Osterley, Letary, even Mark McLaughlin is the one with a couple points on the front end for Providence. Like they don't look, there's no, granted it's a first 2 games, that kind of thing, but there's just no chemistry there yet. There's nothing that's, been built. And so they're all kind of all over the place. And
Exactly. I mean,
I know you mentioned that Brandon Bussey faced 39 shots, which, yeah, but he also didn't look good facing those shots. His rebound control was still a big issue. DiPietro, he faced 30 shots in his game. Granted, he only gave up 2 goals as opposed to Bussey's 5, but even DiPietro didn't look settled in. Like, the athleticism is there, but there's no control to it. If that makes sense.
I thought Bussey had his moments. I think DiPietro looked just a little bit better than Bussey did.
I mean, they're going to settle in. It's 1 game apiece. I'm not like trying to end the world on either one of them. There's a reason they both got through waivers with no issue.
Mm-hmm.
So has jumped in as well.
It was nice. It was nice to see that Harrison has continued on where he left off with Boston camp. I still don't know that he'll get it, but definitely tracking in the right direction.
Sure.
Merkulov was so. He made a couple of good plays. If I had one knock on Merkulov right now, it's that he distributes the puck too quickly. He doesn't keep possession to create space and time for his teammates.
Yeah. He's got to learn a little bit more patience.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I saw somewhere earlier someone had asked a question about Kuntar and how he had been doing as well. But Liesel, like you said, he's just, it's clear. Again, slow start, fine, but I'd be curious, is he moping around the locker room? Has he taken this opportunity in stride? Like, where's he at mentally with this? And is this just simply slow start? Because we saw him have a slow start in the preseason games. So maybe 3-4 games in, he flips the switch and things are clicking. But you got to see it. And there's a very clear-cut reason why he's not with the big club right now. And like you said, the options that are with the big club are better than Liesel is right now.
Yeah, and this isn't to suggest that Liesel is a bust. He's still the second youngest player on the team. Only Jackson Edward is younger.
Yeah. People throw that out there a lot, but this is just where he's at right now.
Yeah. He's not ready. And on the same knock, I'm tired of people telling me that Matthew Poitras is a natural center. No, he's not. I've watched him a lot longer than anybody in this chat or most people that are Bruins fans. He has played right wing on a regular basis at the junior level. So he's not a natural center. He had his entire draft year the entire season prior to his draft year, he was a right winger.
Yeah, I think that they're okay with him playing that second right wing spot once he's healthy. They also, I think what they want to try to do is once they are able to figure out kind of what's going on between Kemke Max Jones, and Tufty. I would throw Kostelic in there, but I think he's solidifying a role to take himself out of that group. Once they're figuring out kind of what to do with those guys, then they'll be able to have cap space created and accrued where they can sign Johnson. And then
that's tomorrow's show.
I know. I'm just saying, like, that's what they want to use for, is that right wing 2 spot.
That's tomorrow's show.
So, anyways.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of bright spots for Providence. And, time will tell if he gets there or not. And, the vast majority of draft picks never play in the NHL. You draft on a full year, you draft 7 players every year. That's a complete roster turnover every 3 years. Just doesn't happen. So, if Lysell never makes it, he never makes it. But I can guarantee you he's just not ready right now. And any option that's in Boston is better than him right now.
Absolutely. So, with the poor performance of Providence out of the way here, the question becomes, where do you want to go to next?
There was a lot of hockey played this past week. I guess we can go day by day and break down what happened on that night. Obviously, there's nothing on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that happened. But we should note that Jonathan Merenberg is still out with an injury. Word is now that he may not be back till mid-November. And while we're on the topic, somebody had asked a couple of shows ago about his eligibility for the NHL. And I said I had to get a hold of the NHL SHL transfer agreement because it's all changed. So I got a hold of that. And basically what it is any first-round pick out of Sweden is eligible to go to the American Hockey League at any time. Any player drafted in the second round or later is ineligible for the American Hockey League until they are 24 years of age.
Okay.
Sort of like the NHL CHL agreement. The Bruins can sign him to an entry-level contract and loan him back to Sweden. But that counts towards the 50 contract limit. They can buy him out or buy that contract out as long as his Swedish team agrees to it. That costs a lot of money. And here's the catcher. The new catcher is they had to sign by June 15th. It is now July 15th. And if they wait till July 16th, it costs them another $100,000 to do so in transfer fees.
So what does it mean that we're all the way in October?
The fine gets bigger later on, the later they wait to sign him.
So it's not even worth the NHL I mean, I guess if you want to lock him up to an NHL contract and then loan him back, but his sign by date, I just looked it up on Puckpedia, is August 15th, 2025.
July 15th.
I'm sorry, July 15th. June 1st. June 1st,
No,
sorry.
It's now July 15th.
Okay. Then they just haven't updated.
I'll contact Puckpedia, great guy over there, and tell him to update it.
Yeah, because right now I'm looking at it. His is June 1st of 2025. August 15th has actually a few Bruins prospects, Langenbrunner, Gallagher, and Grunwald, but his is 2028, August 15th. So, but I mean, there's still some time to sign Murenberg. It's just a matter of whether or not, and he is 21. So if they were to sign him, let's say they signed him next month to an NHL contract and then loan him back overseas, would that essentially slide his contract in a similar way to an OHL
No.
player going back to junior?
No, which is why you'll probably see a lot of these late round Swedes not get an NHL contract.
So if they were to sign, basically, if they were going to sign him, waiting until that July 31st, 24 would maximize the time they have with him to try to get him over. But even then, he wouldn't even be 20. He might be 24 right at the very end of that. So it's why get a contract at all at that point. So Swedish players, if you're not getting drafted in the first round, good luck.
Yeah. And
when does that agreement expire?
8 years.
When was it signed?
2022.
Okay, so 2030. Good luck, players, between now and 2030.
Both sides have an option to extend it.
But not cut it short.
Right.
Oh, boy. That's going to be fun. So, I mean, it's also interested that that he's injured right now. So we'll have to keep an eye on the injury. But was there anyone else overseas that you wanted to get to before we come back to the North American players?
No, I think we touched on Roman Bichkov last week. Basically the same thing. He's found a home in the KHL finally. Has been playing well, but I don't think he's an NHL player.
Right. Shaz points out that agreement seems like a deterrent to sign Swedish players late, which is unfortunate. So, I think, or draft them is kind of where, which I see where she's going, and absolutely, it just, like I said, if you're not going to be drafted in the first round as a Swedish player, at that point you might as well be sitting there saying, "Don't draft me," because there's no reason to. Let them develop over in Sweden, or I mean, is there an age limit? For instance, could someone have gone out if Murenberg wasn't drafted by Vancouver, then traded to Boston? Could Boston, like as a 21-year-old, could a team have drafted him next year when he's 22?
Yes.
So you probably just see a spike in older Swedish players getting drafted then.
Yeah. It remains to be seen how it's, because let's forget, after this agreement came out, the Bruins still drafted Christian Kostadinsky. They still drafted Kasper Nason.
Yeah. I mean, the Bruins are also thinking a few years ahead as well. So I do see a couple questions about the Big League Club. We're going to save those in our pocket for tomorrow's show. Same time, 6:30, same page, actually. So just hit the subscribe button. We have a link out for tomorrow's show already as well. So we're going to talk about the Big Club tomorrow. Today's about these prospects and where they could potentially, what they're doing, how they're growing, and where they could potentially end up with the club down the road. So bringing it back overseas, the NCAA has also kicked off their season here. Couple of the Bruins prospects have started out strong. A couple of them not so much.
Well, let's go back to Thursday night first in the United States Hockey League.
All right, I'll let you go.
Yeah, we'll just keep it in order, so if people have a schedule in front of them, they can just follow it day by day. So one game involving Bruins prospects, Dubuque beat defending champion Fargo Force actually quite handily, 7-4. Much better game from Morello this time around than the previous game. Didn't register any points, but he was much more noticeable, very effective on the defensive side of the puck, which I really, really like to see, because he was known for being a 200-foot player in the OJHL last year. And your boy, Christian Konstadinski, another good game. The more I watch him, you can see he's getting more and more comfortable on the North American ice. He's trusting his skills, even though the skating needs some work still, but he's trusting his skills with the puck on his stick. And I think once he gets more confidence doing that, we'll begin to see it more and more.
Yeah, I said it a lot when I saw him in development camp. When he's not thinking so much about his skating, he's at a better level than when that's his main focus. And obviously still a lot of work. And Shaz also makes a comment about it seems like the Bruins may have wasted those draft picks. But when you look at a guy, and I think Christian Konstadinski is a good example of this, that would you call it a wasted draft pick if you know what he needs to work on and you're able to put him through a system that develops him, and by investing that time and your dollars and your coaching staff, that player's more likely to stick around longer because they can continually see their own growth. They can see their path to the NHL. I don't see that as a wasted draft pick at all.
It's not, Chris. That's exactly the type of player you go for in the later rounds. The ones that are going to take years to develop. If they didn't take years to develop, they would have gone in the first or second round.
Right.
So those are the guys you take shots on.
And with a guy like Konstadinski, like if/when he gets to the NHL level, you're looking at him as a role-playing third pairing guy. Maybe he gets a little bit of second pair with an injury, but like you're not looking at him to be your power play one quarterback defenseman. You're not saying we got to develop this guy into Cale Makar. Like we need a big guy who can deliver some hits, play physical, and basically do what Zadorov is trying to do for you right now. But you have to develop him into that, and that's okay.
Yep.
And he's going to be a very inexpensive option because he's not going to go out and get the $5 million contract.
Yeah. That's all I can. That's what those late round picks are for. Whether they come from Sweden, they come from the BCHL, they come from the OJHL. That's what they're for. Guys you take a long shot at, and that are going to be several years. By the time Konstadinski is ready, or a player of his caliber and his stature coming out of Sweden, by the time he's ready, that transfer agreement won't even affect him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's looking into the future enough to see, can we educate the player? Can we develop them? And being able to identify what those weaknesses are, and if they're coachable enough. Like, we were talking about Liesel earlier. He went in the first round because he has the high-end skill. He has the high-end talent. However, if there weren't deficiencies to him in some way, he would have been a top 10 pick. There's a reason he fell to Boston. And a lot of that has to do with the inconsistencies. And in some cases, we hear about coachability, attitude, stuff of that nature. So there's a reason players aren't picked higher. And so with Liesel, his project was turning some of that stuff around, getting the consistency. he's only 21. He's not there yet. That doesn't mean you give up on the guy. It's also not a wasted draft pick. You're not going to get a Connor McDavid, a Cale Makar. You're not going to get a Barkov, that type of stuff later in the first round. So, anyway. What's next?
Yeah, so Friday night, they were back on the ice again. This time against the Sioux Falls Stampede, and they lost 6-3. Again, really impressed with how Kostadinsky is coming along. Like I said, each game he looks more and more confident out there, willing to do more than he did the previous game. I was a little bit disappointed with Morello. It's, I think, 3 games or 2 games without a point from him. He still has a goal and 2 assists in 7 games, but I expected him to be a point or 2 more that he's at now. So he's having trouble finding the offensive part of his game while also playing on the second line and getting PP duty. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch that one, Chris, but
Did not.
Well, we moved to Friday, and this is where your NCAA boys all come in.
Yes.
We got to start with Miami, Ohio, and Casper Nason. They were playing back to back with Alaska Anchorage. They won on Friday night by a score of 3-2. Surprisingly strong outing by Nason. And why I surprisingly is because I thought it was going to take him quite some time to get used to the North American ice, but he's fit in with a glove, or like a glove. He's now 2 goals, 2 assists in 3 games. He had an assist in this one. Playing right wing. Here's the thing. He's a right shot playing right wing, and I've watched him for 2 seasons through the J20 and always thought he was better on his weak side, on the left side. At least in Sweden he was. So that's why I say surprisingly strong start for him. I don't know. Did you get to watch any of that one?
I didn't get to see enough of it, comment enough, but I did notice that he has the 4 points in the 2 games and obviously off to a fire start. So I'm circling him to keep an eye on this coming weekend in their games. It's been a long weekend, so I do see a couple of comments in the chat coming about trade talks and stuff like that for what the Bruins need to do. We'll mark those so that we talk about them tomorrow. I don't want them thinking we're ignoring them, but we'll earmark those for tomorrow's show. So
yeah, so this guy, the next one, is quickly becoming one of the Bruins fans' favorite prospects. Playing for UMass is Dom.Hockey. So they fell 3-2 to Omaha on Friday night. Lodge-Mellis didn't register a point. He's up to 2 helpers in 3 games so far on the season. Here's the thing with Lodge-Mellis. Very, very strong defensively. I see some people say, and he's centering the third line. I see a lot of people saying that, he doesn't get to play with great offensive players, and that's going to affect his offense. Well, let me correct that by saying that his left winger and right winger are 1-2 in scoring on the team.
yeah,
One is averaging 2 points a game, and the other one is averaging 1.8 or something like that. So to say that Lodge Mellis isn't playing with offensive players and that's going to affect his offensive output is a little misleading, at least at this point. But Chris, you see the comments. A lot of people love this guy. We've talked about him a lot, being one of the most internationally played players at any time, not just for Latvia. And I think we've talked about where an opening might be for him with the Bruins.
I was gonna say that's the most interesting thing to
Yeah.
watch because, like you said, he is getting opportunities with top line scorers, regardless of what people have to say. It's a very synonymous situation to, people saying Merkulov wasn't given a chance at the big league club last year when he was given the exact same chance as other people and just didn't run with it. Locke Mellis is getting top line minutes with top line players. It is what it is. That's facts, and he's producing with it. And last year, 7 goals, 7 assists in 30 games. So, obviously we're looking for another elevation to that. And with 2 assists in 3 games so far, he's on pace for it. So if this kid, who is how old right now? About 20 years old. If he has that kind of a season, if he goes from 14 points, do you remember what you projected for him this year?
I can tell you in a second. 2 assists.
So that would put him at 38 points, right? Did I hear those numbers right?
34
points. If
12
he jumps
goals,
from
20.
Yep. So if he jumps from 14 points to 34 points, if you're the Bruins, do you consider trying to bring him to the AHL by next year, or do you let him take 2 more years of college?
Oh, at least 1 more year. 1 more year of college.
You've got to
let him be.
Go ahead.
You got to let him be the guy for 1 year in college. And like I said, he's playing third line. He was third line last year. So he's not getting the opportunity to be the guy or one of the guys. But I want him to have that opportunity. So at least 1 more year of college.
And hopefully by that point, you can figure out how to get him into your system to get him to the NHL level. Whether he needs 1 year in the American, 2 years in the American Hockey League. But, if you can add him down the middle to your future depth with a guy like Matthew Poitras, these 2 guys are playmakers down the middle for you, you have a good center depth. So hopefully this isn't someone they have to move on from if he can have that kind of season. So Locke Mellis is definitely one of the ones off to a very good start in the NCAA season. Who's the next game that you have on the list?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I know you watched this one. So we go to Saturday. And UMass dropped a 3-2 decision to Omaha I'm going to come back to that one. I want to go to Minnesota spanking Air Force 7-1.
I didn't catch a lot of game action, but I was able to catch
you probably saw my Twitter feed.
Oh, I always
Beckett Hendrickson goal. I'll tell you. All night. This is his first game in the NCAA, and he was on the puck like a dog is on a bone all night long. And if you guys see the highlight of the goal that he scored, a classic example of what he was like that whole game. I mean, that goal was all him. Hounding the puck, nonstop pursuit, getting it, taking it out front and rifling home a goal. Just unbelievable. He's playing fourth line left wing. And just for that reason alone, I don't expect a whole lot of offense from him. But man, I was so happy he got that first game under his belt and played the game that he did. Very, very happy for him. Probably the prospect I'm most happiest for this coming off this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely he's definitely someone that you want to see doing well over there. I remember seeing the highlight, so definitely check out Dom's feed for more of those types of highlights. And he's another one that'll be interesting to see how his game continues to mature up at the University of Minnesota. I thought you were actually going to go a different direction, and this might be where you're pivoting to next. So I don't want to take the fire away from you.
Ty Gallagher?
Yes.
Yeah. So Ty Gallagher left BU last year after 5 points in 37 games, I think it was, barely getting to see ice. Left BU, jumped in the transfer portal, went to Colorado College, and is giving a big FU to BU right now.
Which I'm thrilled to see. This was one of the things that we had talked about a lot around development camp when I saw him there.
Yeah.
So I'll let you.
People that I've spoken to that are in the game have no idea why Jay Pandolfo refused to use him at BU last year. Just I don't know, at a loss for words. So he's had 2 games this season. He's got a goal and 3 assists.
He's back, baby. He is back.
And a +3. So,
and
I had a high. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No Pims.
No Pims. So, I posted a highlight on Twitter of his goal from Friday night, where he walked the blue line for a bit, went straight down the barrel through the slot, and rifled home a shot for a goal. He's playing on the top pair. Get this. He went from 7th defenseman, barely getting a shift at BU, to top pairing with power play time, penalty killing time with Colorado College, and has a goal and 3 assists through 2 games.
This is the start that it makes me thrilled for this kid. Like, again, as a 7th round pick, no one's really expecting a lot from him, but this is one of those perfect examples of just when things go wrong for a player, they don't always get their fair shake. And, there's a lot going on between the NCAA and the CHL and their agreement to let players come in and whatnot. And the transfer portal in the NCAA has recently undergone a lot of change. And this is a perfect example of how those changes are helping players. Because, like you said, 7th defenseman averaging, what was it, like
5 minutes a night.
5
minutes a night.
Like, this guy was getting no ice time. He played 34 games, 40 games, and 37 games, all at BU, 3 consecutive years. So it's not like he wasn't on the team. It wasn't like he was a bubble kind of player or something like that. But he went from 16 to 21 to 5 points. Like, clearly something happened there. We have no idea what. So he takes a step back, goes into the transfer portal, and comes out with 2 banger games.
Mm-hmm.
As a 7th round pick, this kid could have been toast if he stayed at BU. I'm thrilled for the kid.
Yeah. David's got an excellent question there.
I was just going to say, I
Chris,
wanted to
and I
pull that
can't
up.
seem to put
Kept
it up.
going on.
Yeah,
I got
put it up.
He says, when you're scouting prospects, what expectations should we expect to see per league? I.e., should an NCAA prospect be putting up points, OHL prospects, a two-way game, WHL consistency, etc.?
A lot of things factor in. For example, I'll use Oscar Yelvik as an example because I'm going to bring him up next. Didn't expect a lot of points his first season in the NCAA because it was his first year in North America. But I expected him to bust out the second year, which he did. And I expect even more this year, which he's going to. It's the same way. It's the same no matter which league you're in, whether it's the CHL, the USHL, or the NCAA. Experience matters. I don't expect anybody to come unless you're a Macklin Celebrini or a Connor McDavid or a Connor Bedard, those elite type players to put up points right off the bat. What I want to see is, like I mentioned about Kostadinsky earlier, is I want to see improvement on an ongoing basis. I want to see them gaining their confidence. I want to see them start to use their skills that they do possess even more. It's hard for a guy like Kostadinsky coming in his first year, decide he's going to do the things he did in Sweden a year ago right off the bat. But he's getting there, and that's what I look for. Point production for me is secondary.
Yeah, it's very player dependent. I think is a good thought process to have on it. Like you said, you're gonna have different expectations for a guy depending on whether it's his second year in the league, his third year in that league. If what were his strengths, what were his weaknesses. A guy like Fabian Lysell, you're looking for that two-way game. The points are there, but if you're looking, and you mentioned that you're going to talk about Oscar Yelvik next, like you want to be able to see a full 200-foot game with the point production with continued improvement. So I'll let you dive into the Oscar Yelvik part of his weekend.
Well, we'll take all three Boston College players, Yelvik, Andre Gassot, and Dean Letourneau. They beat Michigan State 3-0 on Friday night. So I'm going to backtrack and we'll go with Letourneau first because I'm sure that's the guy everybody that's the guy that everybody wants to know about.
Yeah.
So again, he's shown that his skill set is there. He's shown that he can at times play against NCAA players. Let's not forget, and we've spoken about it a lot, he's jumping from Canadian high school hockey to NCAA, missing the USHL entirely, because that's where he was supposed to be for a season. Has he held his own? He's looked good. He's learning to use his size as an advantage. He does need to get stronger. And man, is he getting killed on faceoffs. I think he's 1 for 17 through 2 games. Abysmal on the faceoff dot. But he's had some looks. He's playing on centering the third line. He's had some looks. It's going to be a year or two before he becomes a driver of a line and creates more opportunities for himself and for his teammates. But it's good to see the signs with him. I don't know if you want to add to that, Chris, before we get to Gasso and Yelvik.
No, I think you put it perfect. And that's a perfect example to David's question, which he follows it up with: should Liesel have played another season in junior? We'll circle back to that one in a minute, David. But just as a good, same team example, like you mentioned with Dean Letourneau, you're looking for one thing. Oscar Yelvik is playing with Perreault and Leonard and Hagens, those players. You're not looking for the same things out of him, and you're looking at a guy in 2 games now has 3 points, 2 assists. Of course, his goal came from Perreault and Leonard as well. So I'll let you jump in. Were you looking to go to Gasso next or Yelvik next?
No, Yelvik. He's centering the top line this year. I think it was last show or the one before that the thing I was looking for Yelvik, because a lot of people said that he was the beneficiary of playing with Cutter Gauthier. And I said, well, yeah, maybe. But you know what? At least we get to find out what Yelvik is made of. And I want to see him become a play driver this year without Gauthier to do it for him. And so far through 2 games, we've seen that. He's driving play. He's driving the offense. He made a beautiful pass. I forget who it was to for a breakaway goal, but it was a perfect saucer pass from his own face-off dot, a perfect backhand saucer pass that landed right on the stick for a breakaway goal. His vision is there, his playmaking skills. It's just becoming that line driver now, and I think we're seeing it this early in the season.
I was going to say, are you seeing, based on what you've seen, are you seeing him drive the line? Because he is on that line heavily with James Hagens and Ryan Leonard. And James Hagen is a favorite to be number 1 overall this coming draft. Ryan Leonard was 8th overall, I believe, to Washington recently. So is he the one who's driving the line between those 2 guys? I think is what some people are going to ask.
I think we're seeing it with both Yelvik and Leonard, at least from what I've seen. And it's okay to have 2 drivers on the line. It's just one night one guy might have it, the next night the other guy might have it. And like I said, that's what I'm looking for in his game this year, and we're seeing it. So that makes me happy.
Now, real quick, just to go back, Mike has a comment on Dean Letourneau. Seems to be holding his own defensively, which is good. How have you seen Letourneau's defensive game? Obviously struggling at the dot.
You know what? I will answer it like this, Mike. It better be good, because anytime he's on the ice for a face-off, you're starting without possession. So,
Fair point.
When you're starting without possession, you're obviously on defense, and he's not a minus player, which is a good sign right now. But I think it would help both his offense and would lessen the need to play defense if he could win faceoffs. And I mean, even if he was just 50%, I'm pretty sure he's 1 for 17.
Even if it was, if he
good. If he was 8 and 9, who knows where his numbers would be at, right?
That would definitely be different. But I mean, even if you went 2 for 17, that's still not, we're
yes.
At that point.
And Mike brings up a good point. Hagens is on with Gasso, not Jelvik. Jelvik is with Leonard and
was it not Perreault?
Name escapes me. Yeah, it was Perreault.
Was it Gabe Perreault?
Yeah. So
the Rangers pick, right? He was the one by the Rangers, right? Either way, whether it's Higgins or Gabe Perreault, the point stands. Like, you're talking about a favorite to go number one. You're talking about a guy who went in the first round. The question premise is still there, Mike.
Now, Gasol, I don't know. Obviously, Mike watches BC a lot. I was disappointed with Gasol last season, and I should say I'm a little bit disappointed through 2 games this season. I don't know. Like Bear Force asks a question, what do I think his ceiling is?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like I've talked about, I think skating is an issue for him. I really do. And other people don't agree with me, but he needs to continue to work that. But at this point, I don't see him any more than the fourth liner at the NHL level if he ever makes it.
Yeah. And he may end up being someone that the Bruins just decide to not renew a contract for. You know? I mean, they haven't even signed him to one yet because he's in the NCAA. So they would have to go through that process first. And yeah, because so is out there with Stiga and Hagen.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we've still got how many more games to get through?
Oh, just a few more. We can shorten it a bit. So, you know, Gallagher had another night on Saturday night. Colorado College is a perfect 3-0-0. They spanked Northern Michigan 6-1. That's the game he got 3 points in.
Yep.
Yeah, goal and 2 assists. You know, also on Saturday night, Providence College in North Dakota. I got to say, because we got to talk about goaltending and Philip Svedback.
Yeah.
So they lost by a score of 5-2. Svedback allowed 4 goals on 30 shots. Which isn't bad at this level, but I tell you, he looked uncomfortable on a lot of the saves, really uncomfortable. And I don't know what happened from him 2 years ago when all the promise was there to what I think he took a step back last year to, I don't know where he's going to be this year, but I was not impressed with game 1. Jake Schmaltz, who plays for North Dakota, basically played on the third line last year. Third line center, was more in a defensive role. He's bumped down to the fourth line this year. It's his senior year. I don't see a contract coming from the Bruins when this season is over. So, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of negatives. It's still early in the season. Yeah, there's some negatives, but you know, there's also some positives with these prospects.
Yeah.
I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just both of them you mentioned. You know me, I was trying to give everything I could and still trying to have some belief in Svedback being able to bounce back, just because, you know, I've liked what I've seen out of him before, but you know, at this point, I really wouldn't be surprised. I know everybody's going to sit here and go, "Oh, well, they got Swayman locked up for 8 years," but at some point they're going to start having to draft goaltending, and even if it's late rounds, but you know, Reed Dick's not in the system anymore. DiPietro and Bussy, like they're just not panning out, and I don't know if those guys are going to – maybe they will come back and start to dominate the American Hockey League again this year. But, Korpisalo didn't start strong at the NHL level, and you're really hoping that you can, ignite something there to at least have a backup for this year and the next 3. But after that, you need something in the pipeline. And Reed was that, but I mean, he was coming up on short terms anyway. So they're going to have to do something.
Yeah. So I don't know. You need a goalie that's going to be ready for when Korpisalo's contract is up.
Right. And I know it sounds like it's so far away, but you've got to be able to get these guys,
Drafted and developed. Exactly.
Absolutely. Real quick, Shaz has a question. What's the latest on Cole Spicer? Any word on how long he'll be out due to injury?
I haven't heard. He's missed, 6 games now, I believe? Yeah, 6. Hasn't played since opening night. But he is listed on Dubuque's injured reserve. So he's still with the team. He is injured. When he'll be back, I don't know.
And then Bear Force also adds in, would love for the Boston Bees to draft Ivankovic. I'm guessing that's how that's spelled. That's said. I'll have to look into him, see how that goes. But I mean, they're going to need help. Period. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, stop the presses. Boston College lost a hockey game. How's that, Mike?
Oh boy.
So Michigan State defeated them Saturday night 4-3. I loved this hockey game. I don't know what Mike thought about it, being a BC fan, but I absolutely loved it. Yelvik had 2 assists in this game, but was a -1. And was just 2 for 9 on the face-off dot. Kind of disappointing. Gasso didn't get a point, 1 shot on goal, and was 4 for 9 on the face-offs. And Letourneau obviously didn't get a point. It was 1 for 7 on the face-off dot. Clearly, all 3 need to work on face-offs. I'm surprised that Gasso was as low as he was, because he's got so much upper body strength that beating guys not as strong as him, he should be able to win those face-offs. But BC maybe prematurely anointed as the team to beat, but I had to stop the presses there because they lost a hockey game.
Yeah, happens once in a while. So, and Mike points out BC got killed at the dot all night. So
yeah, yeah, there was I forget who it was for Michigan, went 15 for 15.
Oof.
On
they had a good.
Yeah. And then your other boy, Elliot Grunwald, Chris Pelosi, with Quinnipiac, defeated Penn State 3-2. Neither of them got on the scoreboard, but they're both freshmen, and Pelosi centered the second line while Grunwald played on the bottom pair. But I liked the way it looked like they had the jitters for the first couple of shifts. They got that out of the system, and I liked their game the rest of the way. I thought they had a solid first career game. I still have a lot of questions about Grunwald and where his offense is going to go to. Posey, you've heard me say it a lot of times. If I was going back to the 2023 draft, I would have reversed the Hendrickson Pelosi picks if I was running the show. And Hendrickson's first game was off the charts. Pelosi's wasn't at that level, but it doesn't mean he can't get there. I really do like how his game progressed as the game moved along.
Yeah, and like you said, both freshmen, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some freshman first game jitters. So, I'll be interested to see how they end up settling in to their roles. So it's a good first weekend though, overall, I'd say.
Yeah. So the last game, excuse me. Well, there's one today I got to finish watching when we're done this show. In the QMJHL, the Moncton Wildcats absolutely spanked Sherbrooke 9-3. So Loke Johansson got his first 2 points of the season, both assists in this one. Honestly, I don't think there was a Moncton player who didn't get a point in this one. But I love how his game is coming along based on the first exhibition game I seen him play, where he just didn't know where to be on the ice, coming from the larger ice to the smaller ice surface. But it's coming along well. His physicality is there, like we expected it to be. His strong defensive game is there, like we expected it to be. Loke was interviewed on one of the Moncton shows where they asked him about development camp in Boston and what they asked him to go down and work on. And the thing he mentioned a couple of times was they sent him back to Moncton to work on his offensive game. So hopefully we'll begin to see that. And Bear Force is right. They are a legit team this season. They're expected to go the distance. So we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, especially after a game like that. We'll see if they can keep that up. So
yeah. So there's some things to like. There's some things not to like. And Bear Force is right. McDougall is an excellent coach in Moncton. McDougall can do for Johansson what Dale Hunter did for Jackson Edward, or Dale Hunter did for Nikita Zadorov. He's that highly respected a coach. But I was going to say, there's some things to get excited about. We have yet to see Riley Walsh play a game or Mason Langenbrunner. They won't get started till I believe the end of the month. But I'm excited to see if Casper Nason can keep it up. Yelvik can keep it up. I find it hard to believe that Hendrickson can play at that pace for 30-plus games in the season, but I would love to see it. Gallagher, I'm excited to see if he can keep it up. But there are disappointments. Like I have disappointment with Svedback. I have a little disappointment with Morello. Jake Schmaltz, obviously, I've been disappointed for quite some time. So, we're not here to kiss anybody's asses and make anybody think all is great. We try to be honest and call it like we see it, and hopefully we've done that.
Yeah, and I think if you asked some of the players themselves, they would admit. I mean, hockey players tend to be hard on themselves after a halfway decent game if they feel like they're not up to their level. So
Yeah.
I'm sure these guys would be sitting there. I'm sure Svedback would be sitting there saying, "I got to be better. I got to do better," so on and so forth. Just all those things. I mean, most of them have that mentality. So we wouldn't be telling him something they don't already know or feel. So
Yeah. So I'm curious whether those people that automatically proclaimed Dean Letourneau the Bruins' top prospect the second he was drafted, where we've been preaching like let him play his first game in the NCAA before we declare anything, whether they'd still be saying that.
yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like a lot of those people are ready to just crown him that, and lo and behold, we see a couple games from him, and I'm not sure he would even, based off of the games we've seen, crack the top 5. Obviously, there's still a lot left in the year, and there's still a lot more potential to his game. But from what we've seen, he's still got more to do.
Yeah, there's a long development curve ahead of him,
I
and
believe
we have been hard on Brett Harrison for the last couple of years.
Oh my God, we have.
Very hard. But we always stressed, if he can put it together, like when we went through my rankings back in June,
Yep.
he was, I believe, 5th on my list. If he were to put it all together and reach his potential, the question is whether he could put it all together. We're starting to see it, right, Chris?
We're starting
to. Still a ways to go. I know you watched last night's game, or was it Friday night's?
Providence.
Yeah.
I caught most of both of them.
Okay. So did I remember when he went to development camp 2 years ago, I told you to watch out for how unengaged he is.
Yeah, he's just not. He was not engaged.
Right, and his compete level wasn't there. 2 years later, watching him play pro hockey, be it at the AHL level, how have you seen the improvement?
It's better. It's not NHL caliber yet, but if he can get there, I mean, his shot is amazing. He's got I would say one of the top 2 shots in Providence right now. Maybe him and Liesel are the top 2.
I think he's got the best shot there.
Okay, I was putting top 2, so I'll take that.
I think Duran could challenge him before Liesel, but
you think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, though, Harrison is at the top of that list when it comes to have an NHL ready shot, and that's not what's holding him back. What's holding him back is himself, and I don't know if it was a mental thing that he's starting to get over the hurdle of being scared to get hurt, whatever it was lame stick checks against the boards, not laying the body, not, trying to avoid getting hit, things like that. And again, he's not perfect at it, but he's gotten a lot better. It's for him that stuck out like a sore thumb, like watching Christian Konstantinsky try to skate.
Mm-hmm.
They've both gotten better. And it's noticeably better. That's the key part. So is Brett Harrison going to, if he stays consistent with it, with the injury to the right person, he might get a call up for a game or two just to see how he does at the NHL if he shows consistency in that physicality. If there's a hint of it not being consistent, then there goes his shot.
Yeah, for a guy that's 6'3", He should be dominating a lot against a lot of these players.
Right.
So here's
And-
my question. Here's my other question for you, because I want to go back to Liesel for a minute. So you're Ryan Mougenel, and this is the way call-ups work. You're Ryan Mougenel. I'm Jim Montgomery. I've got an injury to, I'm going to say, Morgan Geekie. Okay?
Yep.
So I call you. Ryan, hey, it's Jim. Just got word that Morgan Geekie's going to be out for a week to 10 days with an injury. Who do you suggest we bring up? Now, what do you want to see from Fabian Lysell that's going to say, hey, Jim, you should, I think Lysell's earned the opportunity.
So Lysell needs to show the full 200-foot game, consistent, buying into the team aspect of the game, knowing when there was actually the overtime play the other night that Patra made going into the offensive zone, when he held up at the blue line, gave a chance for Lorai to come into the zone, and then dished it over to him for the bang play over to Pastrnak for the game winner. That patience is something that we need to see out of Fabian Lysell. Because Fabian Lysell's in that situation, he's driving it straight to the net, whether he has a chance to score or not. And so that's what we mean when we say the team game. And as Shaz puts, board battles. He's also got to get in on the board and win those battles. That's why I would be hesitant right now, if I'm in this situation, to recommend Brett Harrison because of the board battle. Right now, I'm not picking either one of them if that's the phone call that you're making, because neither one of them are showing what you'd want to be seeing if you're Jim Montgomery, whether it's the board battles, whether it's the team game, the consistency, any of that stuff. So that's the bigger question.
So one of the things Mougenel called him out for last season was, when he's talking about the team game, trying to take on players 1-on-4 and turning over the puck. So this is why I question people on Twitter today who are saying he should get called up. It's like, okay, but are you watching the games? What are you basing it on? Because Saturday night, remember what I just mentioned, he was called out for last year by Mougenel. Here he was again, 1-on-4 on a power play and turns over the puck.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're getting that phone call from Jim Montgomery right now and you're Ryan Mougenel's shoes, who's the guy that you're sending up? Who's the guy that you're sitting there saying, I know who you should take off my roster for the week that you need him, the 2 weeks that you need him? He's going to give you a boost. He's going to play the two-way game. He's going to play the way you're looking for, and he's going to take the coaching that you're able to give him to heart and improve his game.
People are going to hate, say, Patrick Brown.
He would be one of the top two, honestly. Patrick Brown would have been the first guy on my list, but thinking about the younger kids, if you were gonna go with an answer for one of the younger kids, I would say Trevor Kuntar.
Yeah, but think position here, where I use the name Morgan Geekie.
That's why. Because Kuntar needs to put on the third line and move Trent Frederick up. Because right now, Geekie's on that second line right wing. Frederick and Coyle have had chemistry together before. Freddie can move over to the left side.
Yeah, I guess that could work.
It's an injury to the top six is always going to be a domino effect to your lineup. And And that's where I think they're looking at being one player short. And obviously we'll talk to Mike says he's going to send Brown up.
Like based on 2 games and what we've seen, it has to be Patrick Brown. I mean, you could make an argument for Vinny Lettieri.
He's another one. Could, yeah. I wonder if there's some value in leaving a guy like Patrick Brown down this early in the season to try to help some of those younger kids in Providence. But I'm not saying Brown's a no. He's one of the top 2 that I would go with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more, and I'm going to go back through these comments, and I'll make sure we touch on all the ones that have to do with the geekies and there was some talk about Anthony Mantha and NHL guys. I'm going to jot those all down for tomorrow so we can talk about those. Because we've only got about 10-15 minutes left here tonight. And I want to make sure we touch on anything else that you have when it comes to these prospects. There's a lot to watch. There's a lot to pay attention for. I guess my question, let's see. Shaz says the biggest problem with this roster and prospects right now is that it's all bottom forwards right now. Well, that's what you get when
where they've been drafting. Yeah.
Sorry, you're not getting Connor McDavid in the bottom half of the first round.
Based on where they're drafting. I look at Providence right now. They have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 defensemen on the roster. Now that Ian Mitchell has been sent to Providence. Other than Mason Millman, who you can send to the Maine Mariners in the ECHL, I don't know what defenseman you take out of the lineup. I really don't. Sorry, I should say once Regula is healthy, there'll be 10 defensemen. There's 9 on the roster right now.
And they still Ian Mitchell that they have to send down through waivers.
No, he's already down.
Pretty clear.
He played last night.
That's right. I forgot they both came off and went down. I was looking at Shaz's comments here as far as depth and who can be called up. See, though, Shaz, my counter to that would be if you look at the top 6, Pasternak, he's locked up for 7 years. Lindholm, 7 years. Coyle has 2 years left. Zacha has 3 years left. So really, you're looking at 2 spots. Marchand, who's got 1 year left on the current contract, and let's face it, he's probably signing another contract for a couple seasons, whether it's multiple contracts at 1 year each, one contract for a couple years. He's not going anywhere after this contract right away. So you have 1 spot in the top 6 that's open, and you have a guy who can fill it in Fabian Lysell, but he's just not there yet. And Fabian Lysell is a long-term solution for that spot once he's ready, because you've got plenty of runway on that contract.
Well, and then to take this, if you have injuries to the first, second lines, your options are ridiculously thin. I would beg to differ, because if you have an injury to your first or second line, you can move Matthew Poitras up, or you can move Trent Frederick up, and then you call up those bottom 6 guys like the Kuntars or the Farinaccis, or the Durans, and that's how you fit those guys in, while also filling up the hole you have in the top 6 with injuries.
Right, and you move Poitras up. Guess what? Now you move a guy like Beecher or Kostelic up to that third line center if you needed to. You have an option on the third line left wing. Kepke's able to play over there. You have guys. I mean, Beecher could move up to the third line left wing. It all depends on how you want to shift it around based on how long the injury is too. Because that's the other thing is not every team can sustain an injury to their top six for a long term. They're just not built that way.
No.
And I know everyone's going to whine about Vegas and Mark Stone and this and that, but they're built different in a sense that they shift everybody up in the same way.
Yeah, every team does. They'd rather shift up with their main roster than bring somebody up from the AHL to fill those. Well, Shaz, you did say injury. You didn't say season-ending injury. That's a different story.
But even you look at a team like Toronto. If they lose Auston Matthews for the season, one, they're set back just as much as the Bruins would be if they lost Elias Lindholm for the year. So it's going to affect both teams. The Bruins, like you said, though, I mean, we saw Matthew Poitras skating the other day between Pastrnak and and Zacha. For a couple shifts. So, they have that option to move him up. Guess what? Toronto doesn't have a Matthew Poitras currently in their lineup. They can shift guys around and move guys up and down the lineup and change how they're using a William Nylander and a Nick Robertson and so on and so forth and be okay. But any team that loses their top line center for short term or long term is going to be hurting. Period. End of story.
Okay, back on topic, because there's one guy we didn't mention and we talked about him. I believe it was during Bruins training camp, and that's Mark McLaughlin.
Oh, yes. Yes, we didn't.
So I think we were on the same page during training camp in that we both felt McLaughlin's had opportunities, and he didn't have a great season last year. I mean, I think everybody agrees on that, and where he's at. But he's off to a decent start this year in Providence. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but he's been one of their, I would say, top 5 players so far. Is that far-fetched?
No. And he's a name that, again, if the injury was today, is he on the list of considerations based on how everybody else has played? Yeah, he is. Again, it's the need. There's when it comes to McLaughlin, there's something just not fully there, and so I wouldn't want to play him and have a need for him higher than my third line.
Right. Because I don't think he's capable of anything more than that.
Right.
But,
and I wouldn't put him anywhere but center or right wing. And
yeah, I can agree with that.
And I would prefer to keep him on the wing.
So you think he's better on the wing than in the middle?
At this point, I think he's a little bit stronger there overall. Not to say you can't use him as a center. I just think there are better options.
Right.
I'm not moving Kastelik out of the middle in favor of Mark McLaughlin.
Right.
I would keep Johnny Beecher in the middle over Mark McLaughlin. That's what I mean. If I'm calling him up, it's because I need help on the right side. Maybe, but again, you know what I'm going with it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered just about everybody that we should cover. Unless you got somebody else, Chris, that I'm missing.
No, just Shaz telling me that it's not a Toronto podcast. So I'm just using the analogy. That's all, Shaz. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think we got everybody.
Yeah, I think for the non NHL level, we've crossed a lot of the T's today and dotted a lot of the I's. So, um, I mean, my next question, I guess my last question as we round out, unless anybody's got other questions to throw in the comment section here, we'll pull them up. We'll review them as much as we can for you based on the info we have right now. Um, David asks, thoughts so far on the refereeing? Are you referring to the AHL level? Which refereeing are you referring to? Because every league has their own, and they all got their own.
I have an answer for that.
I'll let you go with it.
I don't have any feelings toward the refereeing because I believe that over the course of a season, the calls balance themselves out. And a sign of a good team will work through whatever issues face them. That includes a bad call or a bad non-call. So you'll never see me criticizing the officials. To me, it's a referee making a mistake is just as bad as Brandon Bussey giving up a bad rebound because we're all human. We all make mistakes, and it's just how you respond to those mistakes as a team that really matters.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from with the question, David, and thank you for clarifying you're talking specifically at the NHL level. It's the reason why you bring the question up is because of how you feel in the moment when you feel wronged by a call or a non-call. And like Dom said, it does overall. It's 82 games long. As Steve Dangle says, it's so many games. It's water finds a level over the course of that time. And if you watch other games, other leagues, you see mistakes being made by the officials, left and right.
I want to touch on his next comment.
I was going to pull it up when I was done.
Because, David, what I don't do, David, is follow what the media says. I base my own opinions on my knowledge of the game. And I can't believe how many people in the media screaming that it was in the offensive zone. How can it be a penalty? Well, you know what? By the letter of the law, it was a delay of game penalty. Whether it happened in the offensive zone or the neutral zone, if the referee feels it was intentional, it's a 2-minute minor penalty for delay of game. Defensive zone is automatic. Offensive zone is if the referee feels it was intentional. And listen to Brad Marchand's words after the fact. Him and Bergie used to do it all the time to get an offensive faceoff. So he's admitting to it was intentional, which means it was a 2-minute minor by the letter of the law.
Yeah, I had no problem with the call.
To me, as soon as it left the stick, I knew it was intentional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Once you saw it the first time, if not the third, fourth, or fifth time, and it's the same thing with the Hampus Lindholm goal that was called back on goaltender interference. Like, is it ticky tack? Does it make you kind of sit there and go, really? Spirit of the rule? Sure. I get the argument, but there was contact in the paint. It's goaltender interference. Even Raycroft was saying it on the broadcast. I don't know if you had the Nesson feed for that one.
But I don't know. I just don't want to get into referee discussions because even members of the media sometimes don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, we've learned that.
To say, but it was in the offensive zone means you don't know the rule. So don't go on Twitter and make a fool of yourself. You're media people. You should know this.
Yeah, as you said, if you want the facts, that's why you watch our show, this one and tomorrow's, because that's what you're going to get, the facts. Now, one of the things that I learned from you a long time ago too, when it comes to the officials, and I've been there, David. Trust me, Dom has heard me criticize officials like there's no tomorrow before, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to get better about it too. It's the fan aspect. I totally understand, but one of the biggest things that I learned from you, Dom, early on, is you also have to look at it from where's the ref who's making the call, what's their line of sight look like? They're, just because we have our camera angle of it and then maybe we have 12 more, what's the official's camera angle of it? What is his eyes seeing? We can see that, maybe the player put his arm around the stick and pulled the guy down. But if that happens and bodies are in front of the official, he may see it as a trip. There's nothing you can do about it.
He's got to decide in real time. Whereas we get the option of 5 different review angles and super slow motion.
And we get all that before the player has reached the penalty box.
Yeah.
So he says, when I hear Macaulay name, expect to go against the Bruins.
And to me, Macaulay's the best referee in the NHL.
Again, over the course of 82 games, he's reffed 1 game for them so far. It's a 1-game sample for him. It's a 3-game sample for Boston. They're going to get calls. There's another ref, I'm sure, that we may not know of, who, if you looked at it, you probably would go, oh, yeah, Bruins will get favored calls from them. They even him up. So it's part of the game. Like you said, Dom, a good team isn't going to go, well, the refs are against us tonight, so we're going to lose. They try to find a way to get through it.
Yep.
And that's at every level. That's the NCAA, the Q, every level in Canada, just everywhere. And that's the mentality you want your team to have. That's a reason why watching someone like a Fabian Lysell down in the AHL, how do they react to a bad call from an official? It's going to show you a lot. So with that, though, Dom, you got any final thoughts? We're just past the 8 o'clock hour here. We made it through another one.
No, we'll be back here tomorrow night. Bruins and Panthers tomorrow. Go Bruins. That's
Oh, bees.